Well, hello.
We're back for another go at this.
Back on a very special occasion because tonight is the Oscars.
It's the Oscars. We don't know what number it is though. We didn't pay attention.
We didn't pay that much attention, but we know it's the Oscars.
It's the Oscars. The year is 2020, isn't it?
Yeah, Starlog. Stardate. We're not in space, you know. Stardate.
I didn't say star date.
No, I said Stardate because it said when you gave the date, I was trying to make a joke.
Oh, right.
A feeble attempt.
Yeah. Well,
as usual.
Anyway, welcome to another episode of My Dad versus World Cinema. Yeah. I'm Elliot Cohen. This is Phil Cohen.
Yeah, I'm his dad, as it says in the title.
Yeah, unfortunately. We're back to talk about another film of world cinema. And
this is slightly different, though, what we're doing today.
Well, it's different. It's different. Shall we say the film already?
Well, I think what we do is we'll give a hint away. If you've seen the previous 3 episodes, then you'll notice there's something missing.
Yeah, there's a gap in my case because what we've been doing the production level is very high because on these episodes we've been displaying the film that we've been talking about. I can't do that this time because the film we're talking about hasn't been released on Blu-ray yet.
Yeah, because we actually went to the cinema.
Yeah.
We managed to escape, get away from our carers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there were lots of other people there. That's not good.
Yeah, there was quite a few. It was early evening.
And yeah.
Shall we put them out of their misery?
Yeah, so we went to see the wonderful film Parasite. Which is a South Korean film, and it's relevant because it's nominated for a bunch of Oscars.
And I think it should win.
Well, I think it should win as well. I think I would love it to win everything. Whether it will or not, we'll find out this time tomorrow. By the time you're listening to this, you'll already know. But for now, we're keeping our fingers crossed. So that's already spoiled the episode because we've said we really, really like it. But we're going to go into a bit of depth.
Yeah, because I think for those of you who haven't seen it, we'd like to give you the premise.
Yeah.
Of what it's about.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll talk about it in general and then we'll have a spoiler section at the end because there's a lot of things to get into. There's a lot of ways this film could be spoiled for someone as well, so we're going to tread very carefully. Now,
obviously, getting back to Dad versus World Cinema.
Yes.
One of the key things is on Friday afternoon when you rang me and said, look, I'm going to go to the cinema this afternoon and do you want to come along? And I said, what is it you're going to see? And you went, Parasites. And I went, what's that? I mean, genuinely, I hadn't heard of it. And you then said to me, it's a Korean film. Now, I have never watched a Korean film before.
That's false.
Oh, is it?
You have. This is actually...
Which one have I seen?
This is new for the podcast because the previous podcast, you hadn't seen a film in those languages. You have, in fact, seen a South Korean film before.
Which one?
Cast your mind back about 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Is this a police interview or something? Where were you on the night off?
No. Do you remember we watched Old Boy?
Yeah, but was that? I thought that was Japanese.
No, Old Boy's Korean.
Oh, well, so I have to be corrected.
Yeah.
So this is the second Korean film I've seen. But the good thing about it is going in to see that film.
You thought this was your first one. That's the point he's making.
Exactly. And the other thing is I hadn't got a clue what it was about. I hadn't read any interviews or any reviews. I hadn't got a clue what it was about. So this was me going to see a South Korean film on a Friday afternoon and not having a clue what it was about. And now the thing is from the title Parasites.
And it's just Parasite, by the way.
All right.
Singular.
Well, I thought it was to do with insects.
Yeah, you would think that.
And it was some sort of creepy...
You would think it's either going to be like a horror film or about insects, if you just heard the title.
Yeah.
But no, it's not that. I want to say that actually the way you saw it is the best way to see it. If you go in blind and you don't know what it's about at all, that's best. So I guess for this, we're going to keep the general section very light.
So what I got out of the film was went to see it, sat down. Obviously, it starts. Haven't got a clue, and we'll give the premise of what the film. We'll set the film up.
Yeah,
without giving anything away.
Be very general.
I'm going to be very careful.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to edit this podcast, and I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to cut bits out.
Anyhow, it starts. It's the story of 2 Korean families.
Yes.
at opposite scales on the opposite ends of the economic scale.
Yeah.
So we've got the Kims, who are a family that live in it's a basement.
It's like a semi-basement, isn't it?
Semi-basement, really poor condition flat, where they have somebody outside that decides to urinate from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
And
Like, it's a bad sign when someone thinks your house is a good place to go to the toilet.
Correct. So they're living in this really poor conditions.
Yeah.
And there is the father, the mother who used to be a shot put champion, I think.
Oh, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And so there's a medal on the wall. And then you have a son and you have a daughter.
Yeah.
And none of them are working.
No.
And the father is a failed businessman. So they open... the backstory is they have constantly been in and out of failed businesses and work and whatever.
Yeah.
And they're trying to break big.
Yeah, but we see them trying to, like, make money somehow.
Yeah, so they've got a very sort of... they've got a job that is very menial.
Yeah.
So they got this job, and at the other end of the scale, we've got the Park family.
Yeah.
And the Park family are at the other end of the scale. They live in this beautiful architect-designed house with big Mercedes and Range Rovers and living a really exuberant life.
Yeah.
And the father of the Park, so Mr. Park, is total opposite Mr. Kim. He is a man who has started a business.
He's very successful.
And it's become a global business.
And I think beyond that, all we should say is that this is about... it's about personalities, isn't it? And...
Well, I think
you can get from the name Parasite what the film's about.
So I think what it does, though, is it sets up these two people at both ends of the spectrum who are going to cataclysmically come together.
Yeah.
And at the root of that is a lot of comedy, satire,
yeah,
and then darkness.
Yeah.
In some ways, a little bit of horror could creep
perhaps,
in.
yeah. But I don't think we should talk more upon that.
No.
I will mention, though, the house?
Yes.
That was all built for this film. It was a set.
You're joking.
No. And I can't remember if... It might be I think there's an Oscar for production design. It's up for that, I think.
Because it looks like a house there.
It looks like a really wealthy, fancy house. Because in the film...
I'm sure I saw it on Rightmove. Rightmove, for those of you in the States, is the UK estate agent, online estate agent. But there you go.
Yeah, a little bit of knowledge you don't need to know. But yeah, it looks like a real house, doesn't it?
Mm.
And in the film, it's a house that's been made by this famous architect in the past. So that's like an important kind of little tidbit.
And an important part of that is he had a housekeeper.
Yeah. And she's involved in this somehow.
And she's involved in this as well.
But yeah, so Parasite, it's directed by Bong Joon who you've obviously not seen any of his other films, but he's part of this Korean, I don't know if it's Korean New Wave, but there are these modern South Korean directors like Park Chan-wook, who directed Oldboy and The Handmaiden. And then there's Lee Chang-dong, who's done a load of films. And I know this is just going totally over your head.
Totally over my head.
But for anyone who's watching who's seen some modern Korean films, this is very much in that style of filmmaking. There's something about it that makes it feel like it's part of a movement.
Yeah. And what I got out of the film was, it was really enjoyable. It was one of the best films that I have seen in the last 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Really good film.
Well,
different.
Well, the thing is, this film has had a lot of... it's caught a lot of traction online. There's a website that I use called Letterboxd. I think I've told you about this.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of you use it as well, where you can log the films that you watch and you can make lists about films and share reviews and all this. And pretty much every film that's ever been made that's on IMDb is on Letterboxd. And Parasite is the highest rated film of all time.
Well, the interesting thing about it is it didn't fit into any one particular genre.
No. And I think, we'll talk about that in a bit as well. But it really is a great film.
And should win the Oscar.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, I mean, I don't want to predict,
but it'll probably get beaten by 1917.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see it winning, but it's interesting because last year, Alfonso Cuarón's Roma was nominated, and that's the first time in a while that a foreign language film has been nominated, but a foreign language film has never won the Best Picture.
But I think what it's going for is the quality of this film.
Yeah.
For somebody that doesn't watch foreign films, and this is the whole premise of this,
yeah,
I went on a Friday afternoon, sat down and watched the film and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it's thrilling and entertaining, gives you stuff to think about afterwards.
And there are messages in the film.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts in there. So, and obviously you want to be part of the conversation, because whether this film wins tonight or not at the Oscars, everyone's going to be talking about this film for a long time.
Absolutely. So I think that's about as much as we can possibly say about the film without giving away the spoilers.
Yeah, there's not really much more to say.
Except if you're near a cinema that's showing it, go and see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's still out in the cinemas in America, because here in the UK, unfortunately, we get films quite late.
Yeah.
I think it was out around November time in the US. Because actually, funnily enough...
is the Blu-ray out in the States?
No, but I think it's out maybe next month. I know we don't get it here till about June, I think.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to see it on the plane in November.
Air Force One?
No, not Air Force One. It was Singapore Airlines. We were flying to Texas for a week.
Mm-hmm. Just dropping that in. So there's been the advertorial for Singapore Airlines direct flights.
Look, I'm just looking to get as many sponsors as possible. Look, if Singapore Airlines want to sponsor us, if Doubletree Hilton want to sponsor us, because that's the hotel we stayed at.
We should have a list of sponsors and sort of work them in.
When I was there, I went to Barnes & Noble. I bought Criterion Collection Blu-rays. I listened to music on an iPod.
Yeah, just Spotify.
Spotify, yeah. I wore a Rolex. Drove a Lamborghini. So listen, if any of you...
I knew you had a good holiday, but not that good.
If any of you guys from those companies are watching, just drop us a message. I'll sort something out.
We're very happy. And the going rate at the moment, get in at the ground level. That's what we're saying to sponsors.
Like our stock price is very low.
Yeah, don't come back. Don't come back in 2 years' time when this is like on CNBC and Bloomberg, and they're talking about effectively Facebook trying to take us over.
Oh yeah, we're going to get bought for 18 billion like WhatsApp did. So, just get in at ground level.
Get in at ground level. I would say to people, life savings really.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
No, don't. Please don't. I'm just going to put a disclaimer. We're not giving any financial investment advice on this podcast.
No.
And if you listen to our financial investment advice, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Right. Shall we get into spoilers?
I think we better get into the spoilers.
Parasite? Yeah. So if you've not seen it, go away, watch it, and then we'll always be here. We'll be here in 1 day, 1 month.
Yeah, 1 year.
1 year. Even after civilization has ended, if you somehow survived the apocalypse.
I'm being very genteel. When Elliot says go away, we don't mean go away. We mean like go away and consider this film.
Yeah, but it's for your benefit.
For your benefit.
I mean, look, if you've not seen the film and you still want spoilers, then that's your prerogative. That's fine by me.
So maybe time to get the spoilers going.
Yeah, so this is your last chance. We're going into spoilers.
Spoiler alert. We should have an alert. You should have a button. We press. Well, We've got a big red button there.
Well, no, don't press that because that'll stop the recording.
Yeah, but we should have something that you go. That's a duck.
That's a duck. Why do we have a duck alarm? No, on this thing though, I do have the ability to do little jingles and sound bites.
Good.
So I should really.
You need to work on it.
Yeah,
bit of homework for this week.
I'm just very lazy. That's if you're not realised. So spoilers. Parasite.
Well, now we can tell the story. So the Kim family living in...
But you don't have to tell the whole story because people will have watched it by now.
I know, but to give a précis of what we thought and what we got out of it and the messages we got out of it.
Okay.
So obviously the Kims and the Parks, total ends of the spectrum as far as wealth is concerned. We've got the Kims who have got no money and are effectively folding pizza boxes to try and make a bit of pin money.
Yeah.
And not being very successful at that.
No.
But they have a plan. They seem to have a plan that they want to get to the next stage. Didn't really talk too much about how they come about with that plan. But they have a plan. And by good fortune...
See, I'm not sure. Is the plan... The plan's obviously not in place before... before his friend Min comes and tells him that there's this opportunity.
Well, I don't think it's a... I think it's I think
they make
rich
they make
plan.
I think they do have a plan of what they're going to...
Self-development.
How they're going to take over. But I think the plan is developed as it goes on. They've not had this plan for years, I don't think.
So remembering the title Parasite, not Parasites, as I said before.
No, that's embarrassing for you.
It is very embarrassing. The Kims, so they're poor and they're trying to get on. And then suddenly Min, who's the friend of the son.
Yeah. Oh, I can't
remember his name.
Yep.
Maybe this is the quiz that we ask people to enter.
We're just testing you. What are the names of all the characters? Go.
Yeah. So anyhow, the son's best friend has been tutoring a girl, teenage girl.
While you're explaining this, I'm going to look up some of these names just so. You keep explaining.
Okay. So his friend has been tutoring this rich girl, this teenage girl from a rich family, the Parks. But he's now going away. So he's going away is he going away to university? Yes, he is.
He's going away to university.
So he comes around and he visits the Kim family and he brings it's like a statue. It's rock.
It's not a statue. I think it's like a stone
rock.
It's like a natural stone that looks like a mountain range or something.
Yeah. So he brings that, and he said that his grandfather had always said that this would bring really good luck. So they get it, and all of a sudden he decides that he's going to go. The son of the Kim son decides to go and apply for this job. So he gets his sister, who's really good at art, to knock up some fake certificates. Goes around and sees the mom, who Min, his friend, has already tipped him off that she's not that bright and she's really hurried with stuff.
Yeah.
He gets in. He gets to see the girl who's taken a shine to him, and all of a sudden he's now in the house. So he's now teaching as the tutor.
Yeah, and we should say that the mum's very gullible, isn't she?
Very gullible. They have a teenage daughter, the Parks, and they've also got a young son who's about probably 6. Is he 5 or 6? Or
something like that.
And he is he's taken to be artistic. This is what his mother thinks. He's very artistic because he paints all these drawings.
And I think most parents think this of their children, don't they?
Yeah.
They see their child doing something, arty, and they think they're a genius. And many times in the film, she says, "Oh, he's a genius. The signs of genius."
Exactly.
But every parent thinks that, don't they?
Yeah.
You thought that of me. You still do.
Anyhow, back to the film. No, I do.
Okay.
Heartfelt moment there. So
I don't think anyone believed that.
So they've got the son in, and the next thing, the mum's going on about his artistic bent, but she would really like to. I think she's then looking for somebody to work with him on his art, and so he then says, "Oh, I've got this friend from Illinois who called Jessica, and they've moved back." And of course, his sister. He invites her along. She comes in and takes a really tough approach.
Yeah.
Both with the mother and the child.
She's great.
She's brilliant. So she comes in and she talks about being able to provide not just art lessons, but art therapy. And I think she suddenly works out, or she's got an idea that there's something's gone on with that kid. And the mother becomes horrified that somebody's learnt of this secret.
Yeah, because I think it's only implied, but when she first goes for the first lesson with the young boy, she asks to be left alone with him. So she must have asked him all these things.
Yeah. And of course, then what you've got a chauffeur, a young chauffeur who takes a bit of a shine to her, tries to leave her home. And the next thing, she then, of course, leaves a piece of underwear in his car and then sets him up. And the next thing, being there. And the next thing, he's gone.
But you're leaving your underwear in people's car.
I'm leaving it on the bus.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Trains.
Oh, he's one of those people.
And she obviously sets him up. So the next thing, that move is designed to get the father in to become the driver. And then once the father is in, this housekeeper, so there's been this Mrs. Prim and Proper housekeeper who's very nice and cooks great food and whatever. But they've decided they need to remove her. Now, going back a little bit, when they're talking about the art therapy, when it comes out that the child thought one day that he saw somebody in the house emerge from a dark place. That's relevant to the story as we go on. So next thing we know, they've got rid of the mum, the housekeeper, because very cleverly they found out that she had an allergy to peaches.
This film has weaponized peaches. They've managed to scrape off some of the skin from the peach, and they then put it in a little file, and every so often they go past the woman, flick it on her, and then she starts coughing and sneezing. The father then tells Mrs. Park that he saw the housekeeper, which he did. He was at a hospital, saw her, took a photograph, and that she actually had tuberculosis. And so then she gets rid of the housekeeper. Now we've got all four of them in. So the Kim family are now enjoying themselves and making money, and are now in. I feel like you're just regurgitating the whole.
I know
plot.
it is.
So we should talk about like what we particularly like about certain parts of it. So
well, if we go on, the bit that I really liked is obviously,
because I know what you're saying. You were explaining all that bit because shortly after it
changes
completely somewhere else.
So that was the setup of the film. But then what we do, we've got the housekeeper coming back. And then we find out, obviously, her husband. Now, a key piece that I took away is where the big mistake the Kim family made is compassion. Because in the scene where we find out that the old housekeeper's husband has been living for 4 years in the basement, they decide to take a bit of compassion and go down and see and bring some food, and it all goes wrong. At that point. And what it proved, there was a message that even though they thought they were poor people like them, ultimately they had a different goal and a different agenda. They wanted to get the parasites out of the house and to reclaim their territory. So I thought it was very interesting, that piece.
It's how, like, because the Kims were like the original parasite, but then they realized, oh no, there's this sub-parasite that they need to get rid of, and then it becomes like this, it's almost like this three-way battle then, isn't it?
Absolutely. But what came out of it at the end for me, and the big lesson, which we see emerging, is although the Park family are really benevolent, and so they look after the Kims, and they're paying them well, and they're enjoying them being there. Obviously, they don't realise they are a family. They think they're just separate people that have been brought in. Is that when it came down to it, the Kims thought that they were building a relationship with the Parks. Slowly but surely. But they weren't. The Parks still looked at them as servants.
And in that climactic scene, it's still very much a transactional relationship, and there's nothing beyond that. But what's interesting is the whole family isn't like that, because funnily enough, the daughter, who genuinely does have feelings for the leading son, the son of the Kims, she ends up carrying him out, doesn't she? And that's how he survives in the end. So she has compassion. So it's not totally black and white, is it? It's not like rich people bad, poor people good.
But I think what it did is there was a cynical reality, if I can use that phrase, which said...
You can use that phrase.
All those three groups of stakeholders all had their own agenda, and no one group was actually looking out really and truly for the other group.
No.
In fact, the Kims came across as the most compassionate of the three groups. They were trying to become parasites because they needed to try and get on, but they really didn't want to hurt the Parks.
No.
But when it came down to it, the Parks really didn't. The climactic scene where people are getting knifed and attacked, the Parks were only bothered about their own son. and they weren't bothered about the Kims who were laying about with knives and everything.
Yeah, not at all.
And then we had the ending, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
Which I won't, just in case anybody hasn't fully watched the film.
Oh no, they will have. No one's
okay.
No, at this point, talk spoilers.
Okay.
You've had your warning.
So at the end, I thought the climactic scenes where obviously we realise now that the father escaped and he escaped back into that basement and he was now holed up in the basement and he was using the Morse code. He was using the external lights to send Morse code, and his son actually had gone up and seen it from the sort of snowy hill and had seen that and had decided that he would in some way, shape or form get his father out of there. But of course, new people had come in and taken over, so there was now people living in that house. Part of his plan, which we then see, which at first we thought, is this the end of the movie? But it turns out just to have been a dream scene, is where he becomes extremely rich and he buys the house and the father emerges. But very poignantly, that last few moments of the film where we see him just writing the letter, more or less saying, someday I'll get there.
He says, like, see you soon or something.
Yeah.
It's a film, that particular ending that you're talking about, where it shows, you know, after they've had that outdoor party and it all goes horribly wrong and, you know, the daughter dies and all of this. And there is that sequence where it's like going into the future and you realise it's him just dreaming of the future. It follows a kind of pattern that a lot of films have of, like, they'll have this ending that almost seems like the perfect ending. Do you remember watching Taxi Driver?
Yeah.
Taxi Driver has a bit of that because, you know, in Taxi Driver there's a climactic scene and then there's like an epilogue where it seems like everything just goes perfect for the character again. You know, he's been like near death, he's done terrible things, and then all of a sudden everything's
great.
Another film that does this is Birdman. You've not seen Birdman, but Birdman has an ending where it comes to a climactic point involving, you know, a life or death situation, and then there's like this little epilogue where it's all perfect and almost dreamlike. Parasite does that, but Parasite does explicitly say, you know, he's just dreaming at the end.
I found that obviously I could recount, which is a sign of a good film, I could recount from start to finish virtually every scene of that film.
Oh, yeah.
So that was how it gripped your attention.
Yeah. And I can say that so obviously the film is very twisty and turny, isn't it?
And it has 3 different stories within one.
Yeah. Well, I can say that watching this a second time, it doesn't get old. And even though you know exactly what's going to happen, now actually looking for all the connecting dots and all the little things that he lays early on in the film, they're just brilliant. Because he wrote this film and he directed it, Bong Joon-ho, and it's like a mastercraft of screenwriting particularly. Because what's interesting is, in screenwriting, they say that a film should follow a typical act structure, so whether that's 3 acts or 5 acts. This film actually almost plays like 2 films bookended. Like the first part is them infiltrating the house, and I
thought that was a comedy satire bit.
Exactly. There's not really any tragedy or drama in that bit.
And you move into another piece of that part, which is the thrilling part. So it becomes like a thriller.
Yeah, there's like a thrilling, almost horror at some point, isn't it?
And then it switches to this. I mean, you've got the horror piece with, you know, obviously people getting knifed at the end.
Yeah.
And blood and guts and everything.
I even think like midway when it does that bit where the camera goes first person and it follows the old housemaid down into the underground bit.
Yeah.
That feels like straight out of a horror film where there's something creepy underneath the house.
Well, it's like Kubrick, you know, like going down the halls and
exactly, yeah.
But it was interesting how you managed to put all of that together. So whatever type of film fan you were, there was something in that film. There was satire, there was comedy, there was thrilling part, and obviously there's horror.
But what's so good is that, you know, a lot of modern filmmakers now, a lot of people tend to love modern films that go against expectation. So there's like a subversion of expectation. this film goes against expectation, but it doesn't do it in a contrived way. It doesn't do it for the sake of it.
No.
Like, this is just genuinely put together so well. You know, there are like so many, you know, bits that are just you pick up early on, and they lead somewhere later on.
All the pieces fit together, which I thought was great. And as I said, to watch a film with subtitles, which is, you know, I don't watch films normally with subtitles, but to watch a film and remember every scene, which I could recount every single scene up to the ending, it is how it actually engages the viewer and keeps the viewer engaged all the way through.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, it should win the Academy Award.
Oh yeah. And to be honest, I think there's so much to talk about on this film. We could do this for hours.
Yeah, like we don't want to lose the audience.
We've already lost them. No one's listening. But you know, things like the kind of context of the wealthy family being very Americanized.
Yeah,
and you know, the little son's obsessed with American Indians. Yeah, and you know, all of this, and they love how Jessica has been to Illinois University and all. They love America.
They do.
There's definitely something about like how maybe South Koreans perceive Americans as being like wealthy and maybe
aspirational.
Maybe it's like the American dream that's kind of gone outside of the borders of America.
There was no South Korean culture that I can remember in that house.
No,
so I mean, it was very aspirational, sort of Western.
Yeah,
it was a Western cultural setting.
Yeah, and from what I can remember, I was going to say, but what about the food? But even the food that they cook, you know, the beef noodles, that's Japanese, I believe. Yeah, like beef udon noodles. So it's like, in that house, Korean culture is almost extinct within that house. So there's definitely something there, especially because you know, when the old housekeeper, they've got all the family like doing the poses because they've got the send button on the phone that's like the nuclear button, and she starts doing that Kim Jong-un
which is really
speech.
Funny. Yeah.
So there's definitely like, it's funny how the poorer people are more Korean definitely than the richer people.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something to say that the wealthier you get, the more you lose culture.
And I think as in most cultures, there's invisible lines. And the dad, Mr. Park, the rich industrialist, talked to his wife how he liked the Kims, and what he liked about them is that they didn't cross the line.
Yeah.
So that was saying that they knew their place, what they could say, what they could do in the relationship. And of course, in the climactic scene, we have Mr. Kim cross the line when him and Mr. Park are there about to jump out at the son's birthday party.
Yeah,
I think it was a birthday party. Was it a celebration of some kind? But he says to Mr. Kim says to him, "And of course you love your wife." And then there's this cold stare that Mr. Park gives him,
because he mentioned that earlier in the film, didn't he? When they were in the car.
And there was a thing about the smell.
Yeah,
which of course was the smell of them living in a basement. And the child earlier on in the film nearly gives the game away.
Yeah,
because in the first part of the film, he went and smelt Mr. Kim.
Yeah,
and smelt Mrs.
wife.
Kim.
Yeah,
who were supposed to be two separate people that didn't know each other, and went, they all smell the same.
Yeah, which I think is kind of that's kind of emphasizing the point, isn't it?
Yeah, that they're different.
They're different.
Yeah.
And the fact that they have a smell, you know, it's negative as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think all in all, a good film, really enjoyable.
Yeah. Oh, there's still more I want to talk about. You're not going anywhere.
I've got to get a bus now. No, I'm only joking.
You don't get the bus. You're just like the parks. You get driven around. No, but what's so interesting about this film is ultimately it's a film about family, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you've got the Kims, you've got the Parks, and then you've got the wife and the husband who live, you know, the housekeeper and the husband living underground. Within the families, there's no conflict, is there?
No.
The families are truly a unit.
Yes.
Which is interesting because in so many other films, the main source of conflict is within a family, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you get a glimpse in this film. There's like the potential for conflict, you know, when they're all drunk and they're sitting at the table, and then Mr. Kim, he like smashes the glass and he goes to hit the wife, and then they're only pretending.
Yeah.
Because that's showing that, no, they are this family unit.
Yeah, and there was a deep understanding, I think, that they were all in this situation together.
Exactly, yeah.
And that they were all going to get out of this situation together. So it wasn't about one of them breaking away and leaving the family behind. It was all about so there was a story there about the family unit, and the family unit seemed that the Kims had was a far better family unit with probably more love and affection than the Parks.
Yeah, and it ties into the title Parasite because it's this insect hive mind thing. You know, insects don't have any conflict within families, I don't think. They're all a unit.
And the Parasite thing was interesting because the Kims are seen as being the parasites trying to infect the Park household. However, the Parks are actually parasites because they were living off the servitude of the Kims.
Yeah. So, and like parasites, I mean, I don't know much about science, but I believe that parasites, there's like this symbiosis, you know, that they have to live off something and that something has to live off them as well. It's like the human body, you know, we've got bacteria inside us that we need to live, and that bacteria needs us to live. You know, it's all part of a cycle.
Yeah.
God, I'm getting so...
it's getting deep, this.
Yeah. That's just reminded me as well, you know, the son throughout the film, he always goes, whoa, that's so metaphorical.
Yeah.
Like you could tell that's written in the film because like there's obviously deeper levels in this film.
Yeah. Deeper messages.
Something I love that I picked up second time is this idea of the family looking out of the window. So in the poorhouse, they're looking out of this window and they're seeing these streets where people are
urinating.
They're pissing on the wall and And then, you know, eventually that's where the flooding comes in and all of this.
Not from the urinating, I should say.
I mean, well,
there was a deluge.
It's sewage, isn't it? But and then obviously in the Parks house, they're always sat looking out of the window, and it's this pristine green. You can't see anyone else.
Yeah.
The idea of looking out of a window and seeing exactly what you want.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a different version of the world.
Yeah, and that's the point in the film. First of all, that's the point, you know, when they're getting drunk at the table and they're looking outside. That's the point where it goes in another direction.
Yeah.
But it's also the point when they believe they've made it.
Yeah.
Because they started the film looking out the window and they're seeing crap and squalor. And then they've made it at the point when they're all sat there looking out the window together.
And what they've managed to do is just as they were getting to that point where they achieved everything that they had set out to achieve, through their own actions, it all unravels.
Well, that's the thing. These people, they're not infallible, because if they were, this would make for a boring film.
And probably when we look at the backstory about businesses and how they've not been successful, part of that could be down to this decision making, because there's errors in their decision making. Part of it out of compassion that they make, which when you're watching the film, you go, whoa, 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 don't do that. But they do.
Yeah.
And that leads them into a completely... And what I liked was every action, it was like everything they did led into something else, which made it even worse. And then that thing that they tried to write, that actually made the next set of actions even worse.
Again, it's like a chain reaction, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's what a good story should be. It should be, you know, there's one... It's what they call in screenwriting an inciting incident. That's the point at the beginning of a film when something happens to a person's life and it sets them off on this chain of events. And a good film is when it can link every event to every event. A bad film is one where things just come out of nowhere and you're like, why has this just happened? But this film isn't like that because it's all interwoven.
And I really had compassion for the Kims.
Oh, yeah.
Out the three groups.
You do. And I'm going to compare this film. I can't remember if you've seen this or not. You know Shoplifters?
I haven't.
No. But so Parasite won the Palme d'Or at Cannes Film Festival in 2019.
Yeah.
And the year before that was Shoplifters. And it's interesting because these films are actually very similar, different in tone, but very similar because they're about family units that stick together, and they've got like a criminal edge. They're both families that are criminals essentially, but you feel such compassion for them, even though they're doing bad things.
You hope they're going to win.
Like it. Here's the thing, right? Say what happened in Parasite. Say you read that in a newspaper tomorrow about family. You would be on the side of the Parks, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
You wouldn't be on the side of the Kims. But it just shows how viewpoint and perspective really does matter. And you can make a film about bad people and make it very enjoyable, and you'll be on their side.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of cinema.
Beauty of cinema. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Really good. So up to now. So yet again, I've been defeated by world cinema.
Yeah. I'm wondering if
maybe
when will you be defeated? I mean, we're going to watch some pretty challenging things.
I think there'll be a couple that I'll give up on.
So if you've enjoyed this episode, let us know, of course. But we could do with some suggestions from you going forward of what kind of films you'd love us to talk about. And here's the thing. I mean, we've explained this before, but world cinema to us, it doesn't have to be a film that's not in the English language. Because world cinema to me is just films that they show different viewpoints from around the world.
Tell a good story.
And they're usually outside of big Hollywood system, I'd say.
Which with this film, this is a film that doesn't fit into a typical genre, is about great storytelling, and I hope it wins tonight.
Yeah.
So maybe on that note...
Yeah, I mean, there's probably so much more we can say, but I think, is there anything burning on my mind that I need to say?
This is where you should put some special effects in.
And what kind of special effects?
Like a flame.
Like a flame? Oh, or like a light bulb?
Yeah. Bing!
No, I mean, they've already announced that they're going to be adapting this for an American TV series.
I thought they were going to do that. Netflix?
I think it's Amazon, actually. They're adapting it. Almighty. I mean, they're adapting it with Bong Joon-ho not as the director, but I think he's going to be like a
creative consultant.
Exactly. But why don't people just watch the film?
Watch the film, leave it alone. It's like making a series of Citizen Kane. You can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, people probably have tried. But yeah, just watch the film. What's so good is I showed you that clip of Bong Joon-ho at the Golden Globes, and he was there with his the translator, and he said that the world would be a much better place if people looked past the 1-inch subtitles on the screen, or something like that. He said you would have a much better life. You would watch all these great films if you could get past the subtitles, and that's what this podcast is about.
So up to now, German, Spanish, Czechoslovakian, and South Korean.
Yeah. So who knows where we'll go next?
The journey continues.
Yeah.
Anyhow, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just let us know.
If we had a time machine, we'd already know who would won the Oscar. But
that's no fun. I mean, we could have just done this tomorrow.
I thought it was better doing it today.
I think it is, yeah, because now we were full of vigour.
Yeah, we're vinegar.
We're rooting for the film.
Yeah, so that's good. All right, well, listen, thank you so much. We'll and join us again soon for another episode of Dad versus World Cinema.
My dad versus, not just Dad, but yeah.
I see, I've already shortened it. Sorry.
Okay, right, we're going to go. Thank you very much.
Cheers.